All right, we will call to order the November 14th North Kansas City Equity and Inclusion Committee meeting, and we will go ahead and do an attendance of our voting members. Ryan Brooks.
Here.
Jennifer Boyd.
Here.
Bess Bailey.
Here.
Martin Newton.
Here.
And Marcia Wade Kuntz.
Present.
All right. So we do have a couple meeting minutes to approve, all the way from back in July, just because I don't believe we had a quorum since then. So hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review those. I think we'll approve each one at a time. Does anyone move to approve the July 11th meeting minutes?
I approve. I move to approve.
Anyone second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye to approve the minutes.
Aye.
Aye. And secondarily, there are the meeting minutes from our September 12th meeting. Does anyone move to approve those?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right. Everyone in favor, say aye to approve the minutes.
Aye.
And those are approved. I don't believe we have any comments from the public this time. Number 5 is an item that we were briefed on rather thoroughly the last meeting that we had. I know a couple folks were gone. I don't know if you had a chance to review that meeting or watch it on YouTube just to see the some of the comments that were made. Remind me the police officer's name who joined us. I'm blanking, unfortunately.
It was Justin Holm.
Justin Holm. Holm, H-O-L-M.
H-O-L-M.
Mm-hmm. So I know as we were walking away from that, some of the takeaways that we wanted to review were some of the checklist material that they have. I think when they actually, approach houseless individuals or just folks who might be, sleeping or on public or setting up campgrounds within the city. So I think we were hoping to review that. Did we ever get that information emailed to us? I know Martin was looking for it, but
The information was concerning actual date. No, that was Bess who made that one. The information concerning what kind of specifics do they offer when somebody is without a home or maybe setting up looks like a tent or a campsite that's we're going to say is illegal. What kind of suggestions do the police department offer them? What kind of services do we have in lieu of that? That was the information we're supposed to get.
I think he referred to it as the street sheet. Yeah, that they had. Sorry, I don't recall if that was sent out. I mean, obviously, you guys didn't see it, so no.
I don't believe we got it. In addition to that, I think some of the information that was relayed to us was incorrect. I don't think that was on purpose, but I think there was some confusion over the use of city resources in terms.
Oh.
Mine's on. Can you not hear me? Okay.
Mine.
We did not get the email, or at least I didn't in any of my emails. But also, I think some of the information they shared with us regarding the street sheet of offering to go to other shelters and then providing housing in North Kansas City at the American Inn is inaccurate due to like the inclement weather offers of housing, but that not applying all the time, being emergency shelter. So I think that's actually some place that they're going to have to go back and figure out some different answers, which is hard. There's a lot of hard things that are going to go on, especially as houselessness increases. But one thing I do appreciate is I looked back over the minutes Michael sent out, and they did go through and update that language of homelessness to houselessness, which it's appreciated that they've listened to feedback and have started implementing those changes.
Also, piggybacking on that, Bess, I think you brought up an issue with the data that I have here. It says the police department believes that there are gaps in existing. Is this what you said that they collected? It's corrected instead of offer the actual data would be better? And I think the last one that I have as a note, it said, what are town square boundaries? Did we clarify that, the town square boundaries?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Was that something that we were?
Yes, it was just a couple
Pressing
of
them
questions that we were pressing them, were pressing the last time we were here. And I don't think we got an answer to it. Because I think town square boundaries are mentioned in the actual, in the letter.
I can tell you right now, the approach to Town Square, next to Chapels, the approach from the north where it's covered, in between Chapels and Tays. Is that what you're talking about, the actual Town Square behind Chapels?
I would
Or-
assume so. Because
Yeah.
the reason I asked is because I don't really know where the town square boundaries are. I mean, the
Okay.
actual.
I mean, what we at the city call Town Square is that, it has almost a pergola.
Oh yes, I understand where you. I
Okay.
understand what you mean, but
So coming from the north, from Armour, sorry, I think I said Swift earlier, from Armour, next to Chapels, in between Chapels and Tays, that's private. Even though, you can walk through there, that's private. Coming from Erie, we own that on both ends around Tennemic is there now. But then coming from Swift, where it's open and
Yes.
kind of looks a little bit like Town Square, that's owned by Armor District LLC. It used to be North Count Devco, but we don't own that, but it's kind of been part of the space. We maintain it. So the actual Town Square footprint is basically behind, almost say, Tays and Chapels, for the most part, that big rectangle that we actually own.
where the park some benches back there. and
Correct, the inset area, I think it used to be a fountain, or I don't know, but a pool, yeah.
I think the reason that we brought this up was because if that's in the language and we should be clarifying the language and we don't know exactly where, I didn't know exactly where the town square boundaries are, it would be maybe a little bit better if we clarified that, at least amongst the committee, where the town square boundaries are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good formal request of the actual ordinance itself, if that is confusing, even to someone who lives here. Be very confusing to someone who doesn't, probably. What should our next steps be with that? I know we were basically trying to digest everything just during Officer Holmes' presentation, and I think, from this committee's viewpoint, it was certainly it's an ordinance that would be in conflict with some of our missions and goals for sure, and just with the folks that we, are here to represent. There was definitely a conflict of interest, just with, or there could be a conflict of interest just with our actual businesses that it affects and keeping those people's interests in mind as well. So that was kind of the balance I think we were trying to strike.
Well, I think.
But was there
again,
anything profound that we?
It's not about private business. This is about public property. And I think we need to keep that clear because private entities have the ability to act differently than public space does. And I think that's where we got cut up a lot last time. I think one of the big things I had with the first draft of this is I went back home and we did talk about it not being an issue of houselessness, but when I went into the actual verbiage of the ordinance, I was able to search and there are 4 references to homelessness. And we said, well, it's not really about homelessness, but when it's mentioned 4 times in the ordinance itself, it's about homelessness. And going into this newer draft, I believe it is no longer mentioned. Nope, just kidding. In the new draft, it is mentioned again 4 times. So I come back to the question, is this actually not about homelessness or is this about homelessness? Because we can't keep saying it's not when there's actual evidence that in the ordinance it is. And I think that's going to be and continue to be my biggest problem. I don't need you to actually fix it and say it's not about homelessness. I just need you to be honest and transparent and say, this is the problem, or this is not the problem, but we're preventing a problem. And provide the evidence and the data that says, here are the number of times our police have responded to individuals camping on public property. Here are the number of times it's resulted in acts of violence against citizens. Here is why it is becoming a problem and why we need to have a city ordinance affecting it. But until I see numbers like that and until I see transparency between our city and our citizens, I actually can't support it, and I don't think this committee can, because that's not meeting the purpose of what we do and who we support.
So do you think we should propose a vote, of the members to approach, and would it be city council who we would basically, express our displeasure with the actual ordinance and recommend something different or even, complete rewrite? I don't know. But is that kind of what would, the party that we would address?
So I would, I would help if the committee comes up. I would say either recommended changes or recommended not approving it or just flat whatever the recommendation of the committee is. I'll compile that or get that to me. I'll put it in memo form from the committee to the council, and then someone from the committee we put it on the council meeting agenda. And then someone from I say someone or all who would come and make that recommendation. But I will assist with the memo, or get you a template, or whatever it is that you desire.
At the minimum, clarification and the street sheet. The street at the minimum. That's what we requested the last time, actually.
Bess, would you like to organize those thoughts if I were to put it on a member who has thoughtfully no, and not on the spot, but I'm just saying in some sort of a written, organized fashion, an email to the.
Well, one, I think the question is am I a lone member in this? Because if I'm speaking for myself, that is fine. And I think I have made myself pretty clear in how I feel. But if I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire committee, then I approach it a different way. Sorry, I'm unable to pull up that language again, so give me a second. Let that load. And then if we are speaking on behalf of the whole committee, yes, I'd be more than happy to pull those thoughts together and send them towards Michael.
Yeah, I definitely had some of the same concerns you did. I didn't hear a lot of specificity about what the situations they're trying to prevent are, if that makes sense, in there. I was reading through it, I don't see a lot of that. He mentioned a couple instances, but I would like to see more specificity in there about specific things they're trying to prevent, if that makes sense. He mentioned in passing, people removing portions of the levee, obviously a concern, but there's not anything specific in there about what they would do to react to that, if that makes sense. I'd like to see, if this happens, we'll do this, if that makes sense, specific instances that are a concern as opposed to just very general things.
It seems to have been maybe piggy bank or latched onto a United States Supreme Court for the city of Grants Pass, Oregon versus Johnson E. Appears to be being led by that, I guess. So I guess that the language within that, I guess they maybe want to tack it onto our city's municipal codes. It seems like to me that's what I got out of it.
One question I would have is whether, the greater Kansas City area or Jackson County or Kansas City itself has tried to do anything like this, and if that would just create, more of an influx into North Kansas City. If we were to have more lenient ordinances around that. So just curious if North Kansas City would be a place that folks would take advantage of that, if Kansas City is a place that they actually get, turned away from, and whether or not that would be a stress on our, public transit or like the streets or the sidewalks and those kinds of things.
I would assume yes for both of those scenarios.
Yeah, and kind of the first part though, I don't know. Does anyone know if Kansas City has, tried to do something similar just with the Supreme Court ruling and had people make recommendations for changing?
I can't say 100. I think they did it before the Supreme Court. And I want to say I'm almost positive, but I'm not going to put myself out there that far right now because but it's been discussed that I believe Kansas City did something, or at least with what's the park just north of City Hall along Locust.
There was a bunch of camping going on there for a while. I thought they did do something about it.
Yeah.
They put up a fence a couple of years ago in front of City Hall because they were camping on the lawn of City Hall between City Hall and Jackson County Courthouse. That's been a couple of years since they did that. And then I know that they moved a bunch of when they did that, they moved to that city park at obviously Jackson Park, or I can't remember. But I do know that they did also remove them from camping at that park and also along the interstate, off like the off ramps.
So, logically speaking, our laws have been lenient for the last couple of years, while Kansas City's have maybe gotten a little stricter. I mean, it sounds like our ordinance hasn't changed for a while, even during that time of cracking down in Kansas City. And I don't know, maybe that didn't sound like we had seen an influx, or maybe, from the naked eye, it doesn't look like we've seen a huge change, but I don't know 100% without much data. I think that's what Bess was getting at too.
Yeah, I do agree with Bess that I think we need more actual data before we can really support or not support this change in this ordinance.
Mm-hmm. So, and I agree, I think up to a point. So yes, you want data to show the problem, show the issue, but is this better? Okay, so I just have to be up on it. Okay, hello. All right, so agree that you would need data to show what's going on, but you also don't want it to get to a point where then you are having to act quickly because it is a problem, right? There is something to say about having foresight into some issues. So yes, I do agree, but I don't think it strictly has to be on the basis of what is happening right now. We can look at trends of other cities, see what has happened, and we can hopefully be on the front end, and then hopefully also provide solutions along the way.
So I think we have really good discussion, and there's definitely good points on either side. There wouldn't be a proposed ordinance unless there was, I think, an argument for both. So is there more discussion to be had? Do we need a work session around that specific topic? I mean, or I don't know if there's a better forum for us to dive more deeply into that.
Well, it seems to me that some of those questions should probably be answered, or could probably be answered, by the police department themselves. I mean, some of the questions that we raised tonight, they would have the data, wouldn't they? Specifically the street sheet, and make it a little bit more clarification of like believes instead of here's the data. Those things, I think.
So what I'm trying to do is synthesize what needs to be stated in whatever we end up creating. So I don't think we need a work session per se, but I think I want to make sure I'm like clear on what our focus is. So far, based on the revisions that have been made or the updates that have been made, and based on our initial feedback and like areas of concern, which I don't think were primarily addressed, is we want more information either on increases that we've seen in North Kansas City or a town with a similar size and population.
I would say both.
You want both?
Yeah. They're both
And
relevant,
like size, population, and like closeness to a larger city. And then I think I've been pretty clear. Like I currently like the environment in North Kansas City is distrust in our government. I don't think there's a conspiracy behind the trash cans. I don't think there's a conspiracy with the sidewalks. I trust it, and still I want more transparency. And I don't think anyone's going to argue this, especially our citizens who are worried about transparency and making sure our people left on the margins are not being cared for by our city. I think the request for transparency and saying, like, yes, this is to protect us from X, Y, and Z. Because right now it's like, it's hiding behind places that won't be seen easily by the public. That doesn't sit right with me. So I'm also going to include, so we want data from both North Kansas City, specifically on public property, similar sized city with a similar population close by a large city, request transparency. And supplemental materials they've discussed in response to responding to the new ordinance that they're creating.
Agree.
Including a map of the property they're talking about. What are they calling it? City, town, square? Feels like we're in the Music Man. Okay. Am I missing anything other than those 3 things we were asking for?
The town square boundaries is what they called it. Town square boundaries.
So data, transparency to the public, supplemental materials, including the street sheet, which already exists, correct? Yeah. And the town square boundaries. Are we missing anything else? I can write this up, and are there 2 people, because we can do under 3 for Sunshine? Are there 2 people willing to give feedback on it?
So I was able to find, I remember talking with Major Holm afterwards, and it looks like it's a street sheet that's through the Kansas City Public Library, and they do it quarterly. And so I got that, and I can send it to y'all's email. I'll do it right now. It
Thanks,
looks like
Queen
it's
Megan.
available in Spanish and English.
Again, thanks, Queen Megan. You're the best. Great, then I think we're probably done with this section, as long as I've got my two feedback guys.
May I ask, I'm guessing this, our packet goes out tomorrow so it's not for next Tuesday's packet, I'm guessing.
Let me check my schedule for next Tuesday.
No, well, I mean, but to get in the memo, to get in our packet for the council that goes to the council, so they have it also ahead of time. That's what I mean, are we
You said
talking
tomorrow is
probably
when you send it?
tomorrow's packet day, so I'm guessing December 3rd.
I would say
think
that'd be a
it's
bit of
3rd would
aggressive,
be
but
the-
like,
Right.
You underestimate my ability to throw something together very professionally. Is there a plan on the agenda to vote on this or anything?
No, I guess, let me rephrase, if it's to be in Tuesday's packet, we would need it tomorrow, but it'd just be the memo. It'd be the memo from EIC, or the recommendation.
Yes, but there's no
We
item
would-
on the agenda to vote on this specific.
Correct.
Let's push it to December.
The ordinance would be in there.
Okay.
As, reference, but not to take action on.
Perfect. So December,
I think it's December 3rd, I think.
that sounds
The first
right.
Tuesday in December.
That you need the information.
Oh, no, it would be, that's when it would go to council. And all I'm saying, when I say go to council, I mean recommendation. Then it's up to council what to do from there, or, yeah. And that's why I meant if there's recommended changes, or if it's just, no, don't do it, whatever the recommendation is, it's that memo to get to council, to relay, the committee's, desires. Hang on. Yeah, it'd be December 3rd, but we would need it, well, say the 29th, we'd need it the 27th. Because that'll be our because of the holiday, that'll be our packet day for the following week.
has council heard the recommendation, or like has there been a discussion at a council meeting about it yet? There has not?
Only the first time it was on council agenda, then it was requested that it come to EIC, and that's it. It hasn't been back since then.
And just to be 100% clear, since we're not used to reviewing ordinances,
Mhm.
the actual ordinance is included in that memorandum, right? It's mostly the language in red that is being expanded upon. Is that, if you still have it, I've just been reviewing our memorandum from August 7th.
So the ordinance
the ordinance?
begins at bill number 7867, ordinance number 9664.
Mhm.
An ordinance amending Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare.
Correct. That was the original. Yeah.
And then it's all of the whereases.
That's all new?
Nope, that's
That's
what
the current
existed.
ordinance, right?
Mhm.
Yep,
Okay.
that is what has existed the entire time.
Mhm.
When we had a discussion at our September meeting, we only had, I think, the note from Chief Freeman. We did not
Mhm.
have the actual ordinance with us. It was a digital copy. So the ordinance itself is not something we've physically looked at together, I don't
I thought
believe.
it was in the packet for the September meeting, wasn't it?
I believe it
Yeah,
was.
It was
pretty
in
sure.
the packet.
Yeah,
I
well, I
remember we
don't
had
know
a
about the
printout
packet,
of
but
the
it was-
letter, of the memo from Chief Freeman.
No,
I'm
but
just looking at the electronic version that was with our agenda from the October 10th meeting, I believe.
Which we did
Or,
not
excuse
have.
me,
September.
But
yeah.
everyone has had a chance to read the actual ordinance. Starting with.
not fully.
Not fully? Okay, then I think that's actually a misstep. I think everyone needs to read the ordinance itself.
And that's what I was wondering. It's the it's the law that is in place currently, right? No? 9664 is completely new. That's the proposal.
The stuff in red is for sure new, but does the rest of it stand as it exists?
Yeah, so that being said, I mean, I've read the new parts to it.
Okay, have you read the old parts to it as well?
Not all of it. I mean,
I highly suggest you
Okay.
should. That's where the issues of homelessness come up in the verbiage of the bill.
In
of
the
ordinance.
and the one that's basically active, correct? I think that's where I was confused. If that's not new language, right, then we're asking them to completely revise the ordinance by virtue of them trying to make changes, right?
Yeah, but we're also talking about municipal code updates, so.
Very true.
But still, if they're asking us for our comments on something we're reviewing, then I think also saying updating language around homelessness and having a bill based in homelessness is problematic for these reasons. You should be pretty explicit and transparent about it.
Okay.
The memo and ordinance was sent on September 11th. Just so you, for the reference.
The first time it was sent was September 11th or so, yeah.
While we're on this topic of homelessness, houselessness, should we adopt a term as a committee for that concept? When somebody's homeless or unhoused or something like that. I don't want to be super politically correct. I don't think that needs to happen, but I think that going forward, it might be beneficial to us, especially since we're dealing with this issue now, for us as a committee to adopt a term for it and agree on a term. Do we say homelessness? Do we say house? Does it matter, or something? What do you guys think about it?
I don't know that one way or the other is politically correct or unpolitically correct, but I think that the term houselessness is better conceived than homelessness. The connotation to homelessness is very negative, and I think that is one reason why we probably should not be using that term, and because they are without a house, not necessarily without a home. Depending on how you define a house and a home.
Yeah, I think houseless has been better received, and homeless has, yeah, like you said, a bit more of a stigma around it, and it also kind of paints a picture of, the person, has no home. You're automatically, assuming that there's no home associated with that person. So kind of excluding them from a potential home, even, right?
If I may, just to clarify, it is a whole new chapter to our code. It didn't exist prior to what you see here. The red lines that you see, I don't know what city it was kind of borrowed from, but those were additions from our city councilor, from the version that we started with as our template from another city. But it is a whole new section. Right now, we go from 9.22 to 9.24. So this would be a new section inserted, just so you know. You guys were asking about it.
Cool. So we can assume, or you're confirming that Chapter 9.23 is an entirely new draft that does not exist in our current city code,
Correct.
and it's up for approval essentially once city council has time to review it. Is that kind of the process?
Yeah, I mean, it went to council, August. I believe in August, and then was requested to come to you all And so that's where it is now. Yep.
I will say this, homeless versus houseless, or even unhoused, it's still, at the root of it is still the same issue, right? Like someone is without a stable living space. I'm not saying that I care between the like homelessness versus houseless, because I do get, you know, you could not have shelter but still have a home. Totally get that. But at the root of it, it's still someone lacking stable shelter. So from that perspective, is the language that important to change? And if it is, perfectly fine, but, you know, it's still someone lacking a house or some place to physically stay that is stable.
For me and my role in this council, I think, yes, it's important to me because language evolves.
Yeah.
And I think some of the language we've reviewed in city code has been off-putting, to say the least.
That's fair.
And I think as language has evolved and continues to evolve, I think it's important to consider we know better, so we do better. And what I don't want is to like leave code as we're working through this in a place where we knew better and we could have done better, but it's still offensive 30 years from now.
That's fair.
All right, so do we want to wrap up item 5? I mean, that's a good segue into item 6, I think.
I'm good with the information I have to put
Okay.
something together for review.
That sounds good. So Martin and Ryan will review your notes. That sounds great. All right, municipal code language updates. This makes me think of warmer weather because that's when we kind of started all of this. Maybe even cool, warm weather in spring. But I think where we left it, we had reviewed a lot of the code and ultimately searching through it with kind of our own, or combing through it with our own search terms to get, number one, a variety of you know, terms that we might flag and then bring that back. So does anyone have any feedback on that to start, or just anything that they've noted specifically that we would want to look at? I know it's a big task that we've undertaken here, so starting somewhere would probably be best.
So I've tried to compile a list by title and section of what we've seen, and had some questions about, and we can start with title. We can start with Title 1, and then go into Title 2. I don't really have much for Title 2. I think the next one I have is Title 5. So we can discuss those tonight if you would like to. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should dive in.
Okay. So the first point I have, I know we have talked about this, is to create a preamble at the beginning of each title, specifically focused on gender, because it is found throughout the entire code, like him, his, he, her, hers, she, right? And so it would be advantageous to simply do a preamble at the beginning of each title, specifying, you know, that simply because he or she is mentioned does not mean that there is a specific gender being applied to the language, right? And that would be like a fail swoop of everything. So that's the point 1 that I have. Getting into Title 1. So Title 1.1 .04.020, we have Year of Our Lord stated. It only appears once. It is a common saying, and it does not necessarily present a religious stance. However, it could be reworded if we decide to do that. Title I, Section 20.010, poorhouses appears once. Merriam-Webster definition is a place maintained at public expense to house needy or dependent persons. So we could potentially move this to a more appropriate word or definition that we might want to have used. And rounding up, Title I is Section 20.510, handicapped. It appears twice. And I get kind of to our point with homelessness versus houselessness, right? Does this word need to change, or are we fine with the definition, and would the word disabled be more appropriate? So that is what I have for Title I. There are 3 things there.
You did amazing work. And
Yeah,
I want
that's
you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Before I'd like to address just that suggestion about like a preamble and something that would be kind of a catch-all. I think something that's a little bit easier to to make specific language, eliminate specific language with a faster and more efficient way. Do you guys have any feedback on that? Like just from a more technical perspective, I suppose, on how that could be done, or I think a lot of these things will get very nitty-gritty, so it's good to just know like what we're up against and what we can do to make some of these changes take place.
It'd be much like the previous discussion,
Okay.
just coming up with really a recommendation, and then when ready, let us know, and we'll get that on the agenda for the council for you all to present. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll send sorry, I was thinking about, I'm going to go ahead and say this now. I'll send the template, if you want, the memo template we use, to you tonight after this. While it's on my mind, I'm telling you that. Otherwise,
That's great. I totally understand. I think I have a question more about proposing changes to city codes. Is it a process where it gets voted on and then it has to go through someone else, or is it once it's voted on by city council, it gets approved and then it just gets done?
in this case, because it's dealing with city code, it'd probably go through our city councilor first. He would review. There might be cases where a certain word that's in our ordinance is because it's still in statute. I don't, but he'll check, against certain things. Okay, because we're a third-class city in the state of Missouri, do we have to, do we have the leeway to change some things? But he would go through and review all that, and then be able to advise council on what can be done, what can't legally. 'Cause there are some archaic statutes, the language, and yes, I know, no surprise, just like our code, but he would have to verify.
And I think the reason why I'm wondering is like, is there an easy answer to be able to just like control find all blank and fix it without any sort of approval? Like, I don't know what the example would be, but I'm wondering if there are any situations like that, so it actually doesn't need to go to council. It's just like a quick thing.
No, we can't change anything in code
Okay.
without council. I mean, that's the law of the city, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I mean, a word in the code, we don't have the authority. Nobody does but council, or maybe a judge. I don't know though. But yeah.
I will say, kind of to your point, and yes, we would have to get approval and the proper wordsmithing and everything, but let's take the gender-specific language, because it does show up so much. whatever we would change it to, unless it's kind of short, that's going to greatly increase the document length, right? And so like the preamble could be something like the use of he or she is not gender specific, right? Like that could just be the preamble. And, you know, that is taken care of throughout the whole entire city code. So, you know, where there's like maybe one or two mentions, yeah, by all means, let's see if we can change that. But when it's so prevalent throughout the whole entire document, the preamble is probably the better way to go. Or unless you just want to change it today.
So our city clerk has mentioned, I'm not going to get it all right, but we use a service called MuniCode where you can view our city code. But they also provide a service whenever an ordinance is passed or code's amended or anything, we send it to them and they update it. But they also provide services, she was saying, where they could go through with, you know, and say anywhere that it's gender specific, that it's changed to the recommended language. That's a service they provide as well. So, I mean, also if you'd like, I'll see if Crystal can come or get some information on that. I wasn't aware, excuse me, I wasn't aware of that, but now that you've gone through everything, but still to know what, I mean, it's still good that, you know, that you did that to know what needs to change.
Is that an extra fee?
It is, but
Oh.
I think we budget for it. So that's a possibility if you want more information on it. I mean, that would, because then instead of maybe listing changes for each section and you know, chapter and article, it's anywhere this is found, here's the recommended change, things like that.
I remember there are a lot of instances of like he/she in there, and if we're comfortable with changing to something like they, them, it shouldn't change the document length a whole lot then in that case. I know there are some individual instances of like just he or just she, but a lot of them are like he/she, which changing to they, them would not change humongously.
Councilmember Saber, yeah.
It might be easier if there is a way, and I think there is, if we can specify that wherever a specific gender is mentioned, it's meant to be broadly interpreted, except where it actually conflicts with existing state law. That might make it easier for the city councilor to actually go through it, and if that's permissible that way. Because going through it, every bit of it, to see where it's, if it does conflict with state law that requires a gender specific, might take a lot of time. So I would like to explore that with him, if we can do that. And however, any of these, the ordinance 9664, the camping ordinance, or this Arnie changes city code, I think it'd be have not only a written report to the city council, but again, whatever group you want would come and actually make the presentation and answer questions from the council as to how it came, you know, you came to this. Because that personal contact, I think, is important. And we could schedule it as part of our what's become a work session for the agenda item in the first part, if that makes sense.
What was that last part you were suggesting about me? Yeah, I thought you said we were saying something about a work session. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, it's the
Sorry.
first part of the agenda of the council meeting.
Gotcha.
In which we're not necessarily voting on things, but simply discussion items.
And that would be an opportunity for us to come in and collaborate.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think this is like it's an evolving, it's a process that I think we're trying to get a handle on, right? 17, what is it, 17, or how many chapters is the code? 17? And it's a lot. Yes.
But there's got to be some way to make some kind of boilerplate change.
What would we, I mean, would it be most easily managed, right, if we approached it from, the gender pronoun part of it first? Like, is that too small a chunk? Is that just the right amount to? I mean, instead of trying to overcomplicate our conversations and just our approach to it, like, should we look at certain language first? Should we focus on the new ordinance, as like a case study in how we, recommend changes to language, or just, city code that we may have issues with in general? I'm trying to figure out what our best, because I think we've had a really large discussion about one ordinance, right? And it's very particular. All 17 chapters might be a bit unwieldy and daunting to present findings to council about, just from what I've looked at and what I think Marcia has suggested, but just throwing that out there for thoughts.
It sounds like maybe we need to focus initially on the camping ordinance, because that needs to be probably voted on, and for the council to have our recommendations sooner rather than later. And then we can really tackle exactly what needs to happen to make the changes to the code as a whole.
Yeah.
I lean that way just because I think it is, it's timely, it is so, it hinges upon, kind of a larger cultural shift, especially within the Supreme Court, right? And it's trickling down to our small municipality, but at the same time, it would give us an opportunity to collectively, figure out what this body can do in terms of affecting language and affecting, providing really critical thought to the actual city code. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards as well.
Yeah, agree. And I mean, we can always, just as a very good example that everyone would be able to understand, to say, okay, like the gender, what is best, like, or what is the best options to make those changes, because it is sweeping throughout the whole city code. And then based on the feedback that we receive, then we can go from there on the smaller, more minute things. But I think it will be, I don't know, I think it's easier for everyone to kind of understand, it's gender, this is how we're wanting to approach it, what are the best ways to do so, and then we can kind of take that blueprint and go on.
Well, I would be totally on board with splitting up into threes. So if Marcia, myself, and Jennifer want to look at just the pronouns and the gender-specific language in the code, because I think that's fairly accessible, while you guys focus on the actual new ordinance, would that be a good way of splitting up our brain trust here? And with that being said, I think we can all come together then and approach city council in that work session setting. And that being said, so that would be something we'd look at for December's. Is that, I mean, just based on what you were going to put together,
Yeah, so I'm.
or the
thinking-
timing you were working with?
Yeah, so timing, I'm thinking, don't worry, I just have a gigantic agenda, no big deal. So I'm thinking in order to have it ready to give back to city on the 27th. Am I even in the right? Nope, that's the wrong month. Just kidding. The 27th, which is a Wednesday, in order to get and implement feedback, it probably needs to be done on like closer to the 21st.
So I would suggest then that Marcia and Jennifer and I just collaborate via email this week, as much as we can, just about the pronoun. And if you have suggestions about like the preamble that you can like send, I mean, if you've written that down or jotted down what that would look like, just send it to us three, and then we can have that discussion, I think, efficiently and in an effort to come together at the same time. So what was the deadline, if you will, for the?
So the deadline for the December 3rd meeting, is that the
Okay.
date of the meeting? Is the 27th to submit your memo.
Great. Cool. No, I think that would be a really good start, and that would be, I think, a big move if we could bring our thoughts together and be productive with city council. I think that would be really nice. So let's do it. I'm excited. And thanks for recommending that forum, because that'll be really, really good opportunity for us to visit with you guys. That being said, any updates from you, Councilmember Saper, unless anyone else has anything else for item 6?
Still no luck in getting 2 more appointments. The existing council members. Yeah, but we're also gonna talk about the process of appointment of members, to broaden it possibly, so we don't get into a problem where we have now, there's one council member there's a vacancy, and there's no way to fill it because each council member gets to appoint somebody to the EIC, plus the mayor gets to appoint an at-large. And with the vacancy, there's no way to fill that with the current language that we have. So we're looking at trying to modify that so we don't run into that again in the future. Other than that, I'm really pleased to see the organization and structure and commitment that you're all exhibiting. It's really impressive. It really is. I want to thank you, each and every one of you. That's about it. Nothing else. I'm still working on the other council members from Ward 3 are approaching people and trying to find someone. I've had conversations with them, and they really are trying, but it's a matter of finding people to fill the slots. But they're working at it.
And which ward is missing a city council member currently? Ward 3?
3.
Gotcha.
There's 2 missing.
2 missing. In that ward entirely, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Connor Fitzgerald and Linda Alvarez. And we've had discussions, and they're looking and talking to people and have approached people, but they're still not having any luck finding them. If you know people who live in Ward 3 who you think might be interested, pass that on to either Linda or Connor.
Or even they can fill out the application on online.
They can do
That
that as well,
once-
absolutely.
Right now, there's one application in the pool, but it's in, I think, Ward 1. There aren't any vacancies. So yeah, if they turn an application in, it will also get filtered to the respective council member for any ward. Anytime that happens, we'll get that out.
That's it. Unless you have any questions.
I don't think so. Any announcements?
A little bit. This is a little bit festive. I received some notifications or some contact from our liaison, Kylie Layton from the North Kansas City High School, and she wrote me and said, "Hello, Martin. This is Kylie Layton. We met last year. Now is the time of that year again. Now is the time of the year again. Multicultural planning. As you know, we have our annual multicultural festival coming up next month. This festival will be open to the whole community and will include international food, informational booths, student performances, and a cultural fashion show. I'm reaching out to ask you if you and the EIC would be interested in a donation of either food, supplies, or financial assistance. Any donation will be recognized in the program. Would any of this be something you would be interested in? Thank you for your time and support." And I contacted her back and said, "Hello, Callie. Great to hear from you and about the annual multicultural event. It just so happens that we have a planned EIC meeting Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. I would gladly submit your request to the committee and promptly get back to you. Again, it's great hearing from you. Martin Newton, North Kansas City EIC member." So instead of saying, we usually support them financially, I think it would be prompt to bring it to the committee and see what you guys think.
I think that's such a cool event. I was really glad we were able to support it last year. That was right around the time I started. And yeah, I loved it. It was really cool.
Sounds like we should put it on the December agenda to vote on.
When's the event?
When is their event?
She did not include the exact date, but tomorrow I will contact her back and find out the exact date on it.
I feel like it's probably going to be December.
Yeah.
Well, then
If-
that's gonna be hard.
If it happens to be before, if you guys don't take action on it tonight, and if it happens to be before the next meeting, then it would be hard to have an amount. Do you want to do some kind of conditional? I mean,
Well, is it too late to add it to our agenda?
oh no, it can go ahead and be discussed, and
Great.
it's the agenda's a guide.
Great.
So
I just
with
didn't
this
know if-
coming up, yeah, this is something you were contacted about.
Yes,
and
correct. And it
so,
is time
yeah,
sensitive.
it's
I
just-
think they may
I
have
think
it.
you guys can discuss it and approve it tonight if you want. I don't recall last year.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
Last year's was December 19th.
Yeah, I'm seeing the 19th, which would
For
give
last
us
year,
a little
so
time.
It looks like it may be right before they go to break.
I don't know what amount
Do we?
you guys did last
I
year.
have an idea for a motion. I move we match last year's donation for this year's Multicultural Fest at North Kansas City High.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we'll approve that. That's great.
Okay, so when I get back in contact with her tomorrow, I can explain to her that our vote.
Okay, and
Yeah,
that
we
is going to
approved
be
that we
just
can
for
match.
funds, right? We're not necessarily like providing food or supplies. It would just be for funds.
Correct.
That's what we did last time. Okay, cool.
And we can look up that amount just to go ahead and get that to you, so you know.
November 29th, 2024 is Native American Heritage Day. November is the month of Native American Heritage. So please go to Smithsonian website, like public access television. There's lots of great programming online. Very cool like traditional dancing, traditional dress that is really interesting. Also, Native TikTok. highly recommend. Lots of cool information out there.
Now, did you say native TikTok?
It's the TikTok hashtag for Native American and Indigenous people.
It's pretty cool. I've seen it.
Didn't know about that.
So I need to make an announcement. My wife and I are moving to Minnesota. Should be for a year. Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna come out and say it. But she got a fellowship with the Mayo Clinic, so she accepted the position, and we're gonna move up there for this opportunity. She's a midwife, so she'll be studying under some pretty, I think, impressive people, and has a really good opportunity to learn from some of the best in the Mayo Clinic hospital system. So that being said, we are going up there March 1st, and my intention would be to remain on the committee if I can, through the December, January, and February meetings. That being said, I think next month we'll want to look at just appointments and reappointments and timelines, because that's usually when we try to determine whose tenures are up or are coming to be renewed. So I think that would be good, and if I will request that if I can stay on those extra couple months to do so. But yeah,
Congratulations.
we're excited. Yeah, no, I didn't do anything. I just married a woman who is very, very smart and outgoing and knows how to.
But you're there to support.
Huh?
You're there to support.
Yes, I'm there to support. I'm excited
amazing.
for her. So,
Yeah. Pass along.
but sad to leave North Kansas City for a year. That'll be hard. I've never lived outside of the Northland, to be honest with you. So, wish me luck.
That'll be further northland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be further, 5.5 hours away.
Buy your weather gear there.
Not going south,
Don't buy it here.
No.
Buy it up there.
unless it's cheaper here. I don't know. Maybe it's
So
made for
the weather is quite different. It gets much colder, and typically in the area that you're in, they will have what you need to really be able to, handle the cold.
Where in
You
the
know.
Mayo system will we actually be located city-wise?
Actually, 3 cities. We have to move 3 times. So we go up
okay,
there
that's why
to Rochester. First stint, it's a 6-month stint. Then we would move to Mankato for 3 months, and then to another clinic in Red Wing. So you kind of do like a little triangle. It's all fairly close. About 30 minutes, 45 minutes from each other in that area.
We should supply you with snowshoes.
Yeah, I've been trying to pump myself up because we're moving there in March, which I'm hoping, is like the end of winter. I know we'll get a couple months of winter.
Some places it's the end of winter.
Yeah. Usually I circle Snake Saturday as that kind of date. But yeah, I'm guessing up in Minnesota, I might have to circle like Easter or, April, something like that.
Or July.
June. Don't say that.
I spent a Christmas in Minnesota. It's not fun. Very cool.
Perfect.
Cross country.
Okay.
I kind of do want to do some cross-country skiing when the lakes freeze. I think that'd be all right. See if we got the same size foot by chance.
Never used.
Not with mine.
Well, got him for a class to teach
So, yeah.
us how to do it. And
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on
inches of snow.
and adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
And you will see recommended appointment for Ward 4 to fill Katie's spot.
Good. I recommended her.